Absolutely. Great to be here. So my name is Luba Ismakov. I'm a sales director at Samsara. Samsara is a connected operations platform. The goal is to increase the sustainability and the efficiency in the world of physical operations. Been with the company for about 5 years, and that spanned 2 different continents. So as you can maybe tell by my accent, I'm originally from the US, spent the majority of my Samsara career there, moved out to head up our team in EMEA. And really, I'm super passionate about bringing more women into tech, ensuring that specifically at my company and more broadly, we have more leadership opportunities accessible to women. And I remember my first role as a sales leader, when the hiring manager brought me in a room and said, we're bringing people in to get feedback on the interviews. And instantly I thought, it's not going to be me. It's going to be the other, people that interviewed. And I think that sense of imposter syndrome that many women struggle with, it's a reality for a lot of us. So since then, 5-6 years ago, my focus has really been, how can we minimize that voice, support each other, build mentorship and community so that more women can feel that they can have a seat at the table. So I think I completely agree. I think the mentorship piece is huge. At Samsara, we try to make it a bit more of a formalized process. So we actually have an organization within the company that's called Women of Samsara. It's now 300 to 400 people that basically participate in a bunch of different activities together. The primary one is mentorship, and it's an ongoing relationship, right? It's matching somebody typically with someone outside of your line of work. So if you're in sales, how do we connect you with a director of engineering? Or if you are in the support team, how do we connect you with somebody in a different part of the business? The goal is oftentimes in the workplace, like we feel that we just have to keep it all in, but being able to have someone to lean on and to ask for career advice, to really just vent sometimes is critical. And then obviously in this new world of COVID and remote work, we do our best to try to create these virtual communities, bring in panelists, bring in external speakers, and empower women through that. So I think whether it's a male or a female mentor, like it's just important that you have a community that you can lean on in any situation. I think just a little on my background, I think obviously tech in and of itself, being a woman in the space and a minority in the space, it's a challenge because whenever you walk into a room and you are different than the majority of other people, you're naturally going to feel like you have to step up more, or you naturally have to find your space and your place in that environment. That being said, in sales, that is an additional challenge because you're getting rejected a lot. You have to have that resilience. So I believe it can make it challenging. I think on the flip side, something that I've seen as a positive trend in the last several years, at least at my company, is that we really do our best to hold ourselves accountable to certain goals. So for example, if we say we want to hire more women in leadership, that's great, but what does that mean? Like, what are the actual percentage increases we want to see? What are we doing to empower women into those roles? What are we doing to ensure that we can retain them and support them? And for me, that is a massive step forward. There's still so much work to do in terms of finding the right talent. And as a sales leader, as someone going out and then trying to find those individuals, I recognize there's just not a lot of people that are interested in the same way. But I think once you do have people on the team, it's really thinking about how do we ensure everyone has an equitable experience, that they feel included, that they feel they have a sense of belonging. So yeah, I think the challenge is in ensuring that we're not a minority in the conversation. And then if we are a minority, how do we actually just openly discuss that topic and set realistic goals to start implementing improvements there? Yeah, there's probably a lot of things I would change. I think the one that comes to mind, I'm reading a book about data bias, and it's about how something as simple as an iPhone was created for a man's hand, right? And it's a funny thing to think about, but I feel that in early days in my career, I focused more on fitting in, so being more like the man at the table, and that's how you lead. my examples of leadership were very much the people I saw around me, which happened to be mostly men. And I wish, in going back, I could have focused more on how do we actually empower women to have their own style and their own approach, and to have that be okay. Redefine what good leadership or strong leadership looks like. And I think in the last several years, that's been much more of my focus, talking about these topics openly, not shying away from them, not trying to basically hide the fact that we have these major issues, which, as I mentioned, that's why I think accountability is really important. So for companies that say they value diversity and inclusion and equitability, what does that mean? And having, honestly, it should be as official as there's goals, and if you don't hit them, you have to report that back and explain what you're doing. Similar to revenue goals, I think those things just need to go hand in hand. So if I could go back, I would spend less effort trying to fit in with what was normal, and more effort actually pushing forward the agenda of that level of accountability. And then I think empowering more women, which now through these events that we run, similar to this type of podcast, it seems very accessible. But I think it's, and to everyone's point in the conversation, I think it's about how do we make this more accessible to people? How do we kind of shift the mindset? So I think a lot of work to be done there.